So the world that you and I were born into basically ended a few days ago at the Munich Security Conference, and no one online is basically talking about this on the level and the severity that they need to. So this all kicked off when Pete Hegseth, the US Defense Secretary under Trump, said that he thinks that Ukraine should abandon all hope of winning and concede territories to Russia. This was followed up by news that Donald Trump had a one-on-one, hour-and-a-half long phone call with Vladimir Putin. In this call, it was announced that he was going to have peace talks with Vladimir Putin one-on-one, and this would not include any European partners or Ukraine itself. Then J.D. Vance, the vice president at the Munich Security Conference, this is one of the major, big premier defense conferences in the world, not just for European powers, but for countries all around the world to participate in. He stated that he thought the greatest threat to European democracy was the fact that democratic political parties were not allowing far-right parties or neo-Nazis to participate in their governments. And then he proclaimed a bunch of conspiracy theories from like the far-right internet, including ideas like Christians are being persecuted in Europe, which is like, so absurd, really. But more importantly, he went on further to state that the US was no longer going to be the guarantor of security in Europe. This is a major thing. The European security has basically depended upon the United States since World War II. One of the main reasons why Europe was able to spend so much money on social progress and development was because they did not have to spend the money on defense. And that is how it's been for everyone's entire lives unless you're over 80. And this is very important to understand. We are moving into a situation that no one, almost no one, I want to say, sorry for those very old people in the audience, but almost no one has ever lived through. A Europe that has to defend itself, a Europe without the 100,000 plus US soldiers and the myriad amount of US defense assets protecting it. And this is at a situation where there is active war on the European continent. This comes in addition to the fact that Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump went to hold a little mini Yalta conference in Saudi Arabia in the next days, deciding how Europe should be carved up. Yes, the leader of America and Russia are going to be carving up Eastern Europe this week without any input by any of the people who will be carved up. This means Vladimir Putin's colonial war that he launched is being rewarded with a carving up of colonial territory. The people of Ukraine, millions of people will end up in occupation, an occupation that has been characterized by massive war crimes, the kidnapping of children, the destruction of Ukrainian culture and life. This is the peace. And not only that, the situation that Donald Trump will leave the European Union in, because it will have to be the guarantor of Ukrainian sovereignty at this point, which means hundreds of thousands of soldiers will need to man an over 1,000-kilometer border, which at the current line of contact is one of the least defensible positions that could possibly be negotiated. This will create a position of incredible weakness for the European Union and Ukraine moving forward, and it will give huge advantage for the Russian Federation to continue its war in the future. This is a dangerous situation. Not only is Donald Trump weakening Europe and removing our ability to have defense right now, he's making so it will be easier to invade later. This is what the United States has done under Donald Trump. In just a few days of his presidency, he has totally rewritten the rules of the road. The rules-based order has crumbled around us, and all that remains is the European Union at its center. The European Union needs to stand up. Right now, in a few hours, there will be conversations happening in Paris, a defense conference immediately put together by Emmanuel Macron. Later this week, there's conversation around the European Commission having a wider conference. There will be a European army. That will happen. Massive defense spending has been projected. The conversations at the Munich Security Conference pitched anywhere from 5 to 11% GDP spending on defense. This is the world we are moving into. Austerity politics is dead. The importance of debts is irrelevant now. It is about building up our capacities in our countries and as military forces to defend democracy. The European Union now has the role of the arsenal of democracy, now that the United States has decided to fall into technocratic MAGA oligarchy. That's it. Their republic is collapsing around them. The conversation also around accession has rapidly changed for the European Union, and the Commission is saying that they're going to have rapid accession for countries like Albania in 2026 or 2027 at the latest, and this would be subsequently to moving in the entire Western Balkans, Ukraine, and Moldova. This is the world. The power blocks are getting solid. You are either within one or outside of one. Being a third country is not an ideal situation, as the UK will rapidly find out as it's trying to straddle the space between the United States and Europe, not realizing the United States has abandoned all of us on this continent, and the only relationship Trump wants to have is if it's in his financial personal best interest. And that's it. That is the world we've moved into. Democracies either band together, understand that under a MAGA presidency, the United States is not a partner, or it will be trampled and overrun, crushed between Moscow and DC. This is all very, very scary. I mean, I totally get that. There were many other options. We could have stopped Russia in Ukraine. Now we are going to face a situation where the entire continent needs to militarize to be able to handle the next war, which will be much larger and much more dangerous. And there will not be the huge advantage that Europe had in this moment to push back upon the Russian Federation. When it was potentially at its weakest, it will be for the remainder of this decade. Now that it has experience in fighting a major war, an advanced war with rapid technological process. We stand on the precipice of a new time, a new age of democracy and autocracy. We need to band together and realize peace we took for granted. And unfortunately, our future will be war and the shadow of it. Please, please, please repost, do some engagement, do something, because I do not have a ton of money, and the way I get paid is by you making some noise. Thank you very much, and have a good day.